Welcome back to the Red Path. Today we're going to discuss some major changes to the fight phase which can drastically alter how we play. Before we start, just a couple of things to go over. Please remember that the blood drive for the Blood God is still going on and will run until May the 1st, 2021. I want to make some quick updates. 1. If you are unable to donate blood before then, but are able to schedule a donation appointment, that is an acceptable entry. Just send a pic of the scheduled appointment. Again, black out any personal details. Just send it to the redpath8@gmail.com. Second, if you are unable to donate blood or would otherwise find it preferable to donate money, you may donate to any charity. I simply chose the Red Cross as a fitting one. Alternatively, Doctors Without Borders is an excellent alternative. As long as the donation ends in 8, you're good. If you are not interested in winning but still wish to join in, you can simply let me know that you're deferring your entry but still donating. I'd love to be able to tally litres of blood and dollars raised when I post the results, so even if you don't want to win the box, you can still help. Heck, you can re-gift it, or ask me to donate the money on your behalf, whatever. Alright, next thing. As the channel is growing, I'm trying to dedicate more time to producing better quality and more frequent content. YouTubing, even basic stuff, is surprisingly not as easy as you might think. Whilst I thoroughly accept this could never become a full-time job, I want to continually be able to throw out contests or purchase equipment to enhance the channel. On the same subject, however, I don't want to put ads in my videos, as and when the opportunity comes. Sure, it's free money, but I feel it detracts from the content. Now, I may add them for longer videos like uploads of streams or podcasts, and try to keep it limited to 2 or 3, but other than that, I will try my best to avoid spamming ads. That being said, I am exploring ways to help the channel remain self-sustaining, so I can keep my personal finances for my family, and so on. One way I've found that seems to be relatively easy is the Amazon Affiliates program. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Amazon, but I know they're a popular service that many of us use, and so I'm focusing some affiliate links for products we may wish to buy as World Eaters players. I'll link some in my video descriptions, but I'll also keep a running tally in the Discord. Essentially, if you're going to buy something off Amazon, if you use my links, I get a small cut, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. It's a great win for me, and you can enjoy the sense of self-satisfaction that Amazon got a few pennies less than they would have anyway. Alright, that's enough of that. Let's dive into some content. At the end of last year, I released a 3-part series called Master the Fight Phase, and it turns out that I was a bit preemptive with my titling. I'll be honest, I just haven't had the 9th edition games needed to be able to fairly offer much advice past Theory Hammer. But then again, not many of us have. A couple of folks offered constructive criticism in the comments. I'm not joking. There were YouTube comments that disagreed whilst being respectful. And it was awesome because it helped me learn and gain a better understanding of the rules. So, I want to take this opportunity to correct some mistakes I made in that series and go over the minor changes to the rules that can and do alter how we play as World Eaters. And frankly, for any combat-orientated 40k army. The first video I put out focused on how to understand sequencing and order of operations in the fight phase. Whilst I referred to and linked a Goonhammer article that was written for the tail end of 8th edition, I am fairly certain, or at least greater than 51% certain, that my interpretation of the order was correct. The biggest change to sequencing is that after charging units, or units with a fights first ability, then the player who activates first is the player whose turn it is not. I did cover this in the video, but it's important enough to reiterate it here. If it is your turn and you have no charging or fights first units, then your opponent will have activation initiative in the fight phase. The second video I released in the series focused on how to maximize movement in the fight phase by stacking abilities and buffs to increase the outcomes of pile-ins and consolidation moves. This video in particular contains several errors, and I'm going to address them here. At about 7.5 minutes, I made the claim that if you began the fight phase, yours or your opponent's, within engagement range, and or you made a charge, you are an eligible unit. This is incorrect. To be an eligible unit, you must fulfill one of the two following criteria. Number 1, you must have successfully charged, or 2, you must be within engagement range. So, if it is your turn and you charged, you can theoretically get an abusively large amount of movement from a Lord. That's still fair game. But to do so in your opponent's turn would be very difficult. In your opponent's turn, as your units cannot charge and do not count as having charged, they are only eligible to fight once if they are within engagement range at any opportunity where they can be selected to fight. Therefore, if you have 2 units engaged with an enemy and you activate one and wipe that enemy unit, when it is your turn to select to activate again, your second unit will no longer be eligible to fight, as at the time of activation selection it is ineligible as it is not engaged. On the flip side, if an opponent's unit consolidates into engagement range of a unit of yours that has not fought, it instantly becomes eligible and can fight when its turn comes around. The takeaway from this is as follows. On your turn, if you charged, a unit can use all of its activations, including Blood for the Blood God and Fury of Khorne. They may still only fight charged targets or enemies that heroically intervened into them, but they can activate to pile in and consolidate multiple times. On your opponent's turn, you can only activate the second or third time if you are eligible to do so at the time of activation, i.e., you are within 1 inch of an enemy unit under the general rules, verticality and opponent's abilities notwithstanding. Additionally, at around 8 minutes and 21 seconds, I talk about heroic interventions. One thing that's especially important to note as World Eaters is that models that heroically intervene can now be targeted by enemy models, even if they did not declare them as charge targets. This removes some of the cheese and vulnerability that was prevalent through 8th edition, to be fair, but does remove one of the few cool plays we could pull off, as a legion that narratively favours individual combat. Nevertheless, it's important to remember both for yourself, but in being able to lure enemy characters in, and still being able to hit back. Okay, so that corrects my errors, or at least the ones I'm aware of. As a rule, folks, if I mess up or spread misinformation, let me know. I'm not an expert player. I'm not privy to secret lore or ancient tomes of knowledge. I'm just a bloke with a YouTube channel. Sometimes we fall into the trap of a pedestal bias, where we assume just because someone has a platform, they deserve it. So yeah, definitely call me on my shit. Now, let's look at the specific rule changes in 9th and what they mean for us. Some of this is going to be fairly obvious, so I'll move through them pretty quick and not get bogged down. So apologies in advance if I'm rehashing stuff you already know. Stick around though, because it's possible there's a little something you didn't notice. So let's start with the charge phase. 1. You have to succeed the charge roll to every target. No more multi-charges with a safe mini-charge thrown in there. You don't have to tag or engage with every target, but you must make the distance so you could engage any single one of them. Number 2. The most recent errata also changed how charges specifically from Deep Strike work, but must also logically extend to any charge from the ground level to an upper level of a terrain feature, given that that's how triangles work. Essentially, you measure 9 inches for Deep Strike Denial, but to get within 5 inches engagement range, you only need an 8-inch charge on the example pictured. So if you're deploying on a terrain feature or your opponent has, make sure you've read this errata a few times to make sure you understand the minutiae of the rules. Now, onto the fight phase. First thing, as mentioned, fights begin with the player whose turn it is not, unless there were charges or other abilities at play. Second, we get clarification of what units can fight, eligible units, and to be an eligible unit, a unit must be one that charged or is within engagement range. And the third thing that I think is important to note is that fighting by ranks has changed as well slightly. Now, you need to ensure your front rank is within half an inch and your second rank is within half an inch of the front rank. Now, this only applies if you're attempting to fight with multiple ranks. If it's a single rank or a single line of models, They're absolutely fine as long as they're within the normal rule of 1 inch engagement range. So those are the most significant changes from the rules and the ones most likely to impact us. The most direct impacts of these alterations are that we essentially lost the ability to multi-charge as we used to. This has been somewhat ameliorated by the reduction in Overwatch and the minor buff to how particular charges can require less than the base-to-base requirement. And the biggest impact is that of no longer always activating for the second or third times, no matter what. Now, we have to ensure we are truly eligible. It took me a few reads to completely cement this in my head, and it's probable you've been playing it right all this time, but if not, it is the big one to be aware of. On your turn, charging units are golden. Otherwise, a unit has to be within 1 inch of an enemy to activate. Okay, I know this video isn't relaying anything groundbreaking or controversial, but I wanted to correct my earlier mistakes and clarify some details for you all. Now, if I've somehow screwed it up again, let me know. I'll severely facepalm myself on your behalf. But I think I got it this time. If you've noticed anything I forgot or want clarification on anything, drop me a comment below and we can figure it out. If you've enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a thumbs up and consider hitting that subscribe button. If you didn't, well, leave a thumbs down, it's all good. Either way, until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill main burn.